Our summer plan was to head north to northeastern Canada. We started the trip leaving New York and entering Quebec. Of course, Quebec, as we found out, is primarily French. Our first stop was outside Montreal, where we found a glamping spot that had quite a few amenities. We were also noticing that even though we don't know any French, the road signs were pretty self-explanatory. We got to the point where we were doing a guessing game as to what the different signs meant. And we got pretty good at it. But there wasn't a sign for this next obstacle.
It doesn't explode. Well, it's already been popping. In a sideshow.
As we continued our travels east, we passed Quebec City and enjoyed the countryside along the St. Lawrence River. We did do a little bit of driving around in that region. It's very rural, and again, we were fascinated by the different road signs, especially since we couldn't really talk to too many people because out in the countryside, most everybody spoke French. So it was a little bit of a challenge to order food, etc. But we managed, and thoroughly enjoyed the St. Lawrence waterway. As we moved east along the St. Lawrence River, we also started seeing lighthouses. And we stopped in Rimouski to see the decommissioned Canadian Cold War submarine that they have set up there. From Quebec, we moved on to New Brunswick, camping in a cute little campground near Moncton. The countryside in New Brunswick is totally awesome. But one of the greatest things that we got to see while we were there was the Bay of Fundy. The Bay of Fundy is located between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, and it's known for its extremely high tides. This is the Hopewell Rocks, where they're basically what they call eroded flower pot formations that are either on dry land when the tide is out, and you can see the seagrass there, or surrounded by water when the tide comes back in. We have when the tide goes out, there's a lot of people that including ourselves, that stroll along the bay bottom, and it's pretty overwhelming as you're walking along and realizing that in just a couple of hours, all of this is going to be covered with water. As the tide started rolling in, I decided to take advantage of a kayak tour and was able to actually tour the flower pots from the water. As John took pictures and observed from the safety of the dry ground. Our next stop was going to be Prince Edward Island, where I got the opportunity to try oysters
Video me?
for the first time.
Okay, from what I understand, this is supposed to go fast. Interesting.
While we rode around Prince Edward Island, we toured their many preserved lighthouses and enjoyed the coast and the beautiful scenery. Besides lighthouses, the island is known for its seafood fare, which we were able to explore at a couple of different restaurants. It's also the home of the author L.M. Montgomery, who wrote the book series Anne of Green Gables. And they have a cute little museum that we visited that has the restored home that was used as background for many of the books that she wrote. Back in New Brunswick, we visited Fredericton, which is the capital of New Brunswick. While we were there, we attended the annual Highland Games.
Okay, Adam Ogilvy, first one of our caber competitors. Adam has turned cabers all around the world. Adam is one of the most experienced caber competitors we have on this field. Excellent kick by Adam. Adam's running, building speed. He's going to get the kid for a big rip. He smokes that kid over.
Drummer Devin Anderson. They were formed in 1965. They're primarily a parade band. They perform in parades and festivals in New Brunswick and in Maine. Of course, some of their members have gone on to play in military and civilian bands in Fredericton, St. John, Alberta, Quebec, Ontario, and beyond. New Brunswick Highland Games is their only competition this year, so we're really pleased to see them here. Welcome, Southern Victoria Pipe Band.
One of the other really cool things we got to see was the tidal bore on the river that runs through Moncton. Tidal bore is basically a large wave that's caused by the funneling of a flood as it enters the long, narrow, shallow inlet, and in this case it's the river. We had to get up pretty early in the morning to see this, but it was well worth the effort. As you can see, it's pretty amazing. Our next stop was Nova Scotia on the southwest corner of the island. Found a very nice campground where we were parked right on the lake and had a great view of the wildlife in the area and the lake, of course. No, we didn't do any fishing, but there was quite a few people there that were fishing. One of the reasons for picking this location was there was a Goldwing rally in the area, and as part of the rally we went on a tour of one of the local sites. It's a Leif Erikson National Park. Of course there's lighthouses, and there was some gardens and a little trail to explore.
So we're on the Leif Erikson Trail in Nova Scotia. It's one of the points, lighthouse. Beautiful area.
One of the other rally tours included a tour of a historic Acadian village. It was very interesting and had some live demonstrations of life back in the 16 and 1700s.
I'll pass.
One touch feels skinny. A picture perfect, underserving. Everything will probably go in and out of one thorn, and we break. Airborne as we face misconceptions, picture perfect, a balanced blend and some pretend. In and out.
And no rally is complete without the traditional light parade. One of the cool things that John and I notice as we're traveling around the country is that there are towns all over with names similar to names back home. This town in particular reminded us of Old Barrington. Unfortunately, things came to a sudden halt when Mr. Bambi decided to connect with the motorcycle. We don't know what happened to Bambi, but the motorcycle, after 2 months back at our great friends at Des Plaines Honda, is completely fixed and good as new and back on the road. And we will be shortly back on the road to heading to our new winter home for the year in Fort Myers, Florida.